It's been almost 8 years since Edgar Wright's Scott Pilgrim vs. the World graced audiences in theaters, but now it's time to learn some facts. Let's go.
What you're saying is we are dating?
I guess.
Does that mean we can make out?
Sure.
The film came out August 13, 2010. However, Edgar Wright, the director, was approached to do this movie in 2004, the same year the first volume was released. When production did finally begun, only 2 of the books had been written. Because of this, some lines from the movie actually make it into later books. Like this line, for example.
It was just a phase.
Just a phase?
You had a sexy face?
A lot of the locations that they filmed were actual places in Brian Lee O'Malley's childhood, such as the street where he grew up and his library, the same locations that were based on some of the drawings in the actual book. Also, a lot of shirts and posters from the book can be found in the movie, whether they be easy to find or split-second cameos. The title Scott Pilgrim actually comes from a song from the group Plum Tree, who has 2 songs on this soundtrack, one being Scott Pilgrim, of course, and one of their shirts worn by Scott. A complaint some had in the books was Scott being able to fight well with no explanation. To counter this criticism, Edgar used the fighting game Scott and Knives played at the beginning, showing that Scott had years of experience in fighting, but in video game form. Speaking of Edgar Wright's genius details, all the X's have references to their numbers throughout the film. Matthew Patel has 1 chevron on his military jacket, Lucas Lee has the type tan symbol for 2 tattooed on his neck, wears a belt buckle made of 2 X's, drives a car with the numeral 2, and even points at Scott with 2 fingers. Scott Ingram wears a t-shirt with the number 3 along with 3 stripes on his shoulders. Scott fights Roxy at a club called 4, she also has 4 rips in her leggings. The Katayanagi twins each have 5 and 6 stencils on their cuffs, and turn their volume to the Japanese character for 11, and Gideon Graves' G-Man Wreckers is made out of 7s turned on their side. Similarly, since Scott is non-Evil X, he wears a t-shirt with 0 on it, and drinks Coke Zero. There are also a bunch of X references scattered in the film, usually having some sort of meaning with the scene. Another weird Edgar thing is that he encouraged actors to not blink during takes, to give it an anime feel.
What do you play?
Wow, Zelda, Tetris. That's kind of a big question.
For the video game aspect, Edgar wrote a letter to Nintendo for permission to use a song from The Legend of Zelda, in which he called the music Nursery Rhymes to a Generation. Also, the doors with a star on them that Ramona travels through in the subspace are a reference to the Mario games. Lucas Lee's pompous exchange to Wallace actually happened in Edgar's real life. While backstage at a concert for the band The Hives, Edgar told lead singer Phil Amquist he was a big fan, which he responded,
"Why wouldn't you be?"
Brian Lee O'Malley's favorite scene in the film is in fact the title sequence. However, that actually didn't come until later in production, after it was suggested by Quentin Tarantino. Speaking of Tarantino, Edgar included a scene just for him, which is the close-up of Ramona's feet during her date with Scott, since he is known for having a foot fetish. Before the cast started on the movie, they were all given a list of 10 secret things about their character, one of those being that Julie Powers had a massive crush on Scott during college. The only one who didn't have a list was Anna Kendrick, who instead had the real Stacy, Brian's sister, to ask questions to. The real Stacy Pilgrim also had a cameo in one shot that was later cut due to continuity errors. Speaking of the cast, it's time for the actors' facts. Michael CERA was the only person in mind for the role of Scott Pilgrim, after Edgar saw him in Arrested Development. Mae Whitman, who plays Roxy, also was in Arrested Development, playing as Michael's girlfriend. In the scene where Scott opens the door to Ramona, it took over 30 takes in order for Michael to successfully throw the package over his shoulders and straight into the bin.
Just a little short.
So yeah, 8 o'clock? No. Bit more of an arc, okay. So yeah. Did it go in? Ah! How was that? So yeah, 8 o'clock? What, is it 2 on the wall there? Imagine if that went in and we dropped the pin. So yeah, 8 o'clock? So yeah, 8 o'clock? So yeah, 8 o'clock?
Did that go in? Cut!
Hey!
Michael CERA already knew how to play bass, so others who didn't know how to play instruments had to learn them for this film, such as Alison Pill on drums and Mark Webber on guitar and vocals. Although in the film, Scott is much older than Knives, in real life Ellen Wong is actually 3 years older than Michael. This was also her film debut. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who plays Ramona Flowers, actually is from the same place her character is from, North Carolina. Johnny Simmons, who plays young Neil, got offered the role over Facebook. He also got the role for his amazing line delivery of this classic line during his audition tape.
You punched the highlights out of her hair. He punched the highlights out of her hair!
Edgar didn't want any British actors for his first ever North American film. However, he did not know that Satya Baba, who plays Matthew Patel, was British until he got the role. Weirdly enough, he grew up near where Edgar lived. The Lucas Lee stunt doubles are actual stunt performers who double for Chris Evans. If you're wondering who did the voiceovers for this film, it was none other than SNL star and Fear himself, Bill Hader. And the last fact of the day is that the Pac-Man story that Scott tells in the film is actually real.
You guys are so amazing.